We're going to move towards our All-NBA teams. Now, this one is really interesting because obviously there's 3 teams. Unlike the old defense and all rookie teams, this one is 3 teams. So I got this one right. Pretty happy with my picks. I do have some notable mentions who didn't make the cut, who now looking back on, there's one specific player who I'm just looking at it now and thinking, like, how did I mess up that bad and not put him on either 3 of these teams? But nevertheless, I did what I did, and I left them off. So with the third All-NBA team, so I've done this point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. Alright, sweet. So at point guard, I got Kyrie Irving. I think he's having a career year, and even with all that media controversy, he's kind of played through it, and he's putting up fantastic numbers. At the 2, we got SGA, who's also having a career year. And if Thunder weren't competing for a play-in position and they were a playoff contender, he'd definitely get a lot more recognition. At the small forward position, we got none other than DeMar DeRozan. I think he sneaks in the All-NBA third team. It just sounds weird to say that he's All-NBA once again, but I just don't know who I would have over him. I could have gone the route of going with Paul George or Jimmy Butler, but I think DeMar deserves it over these 2 guys just because he's been more consistent. At the power forward position, I got Julius Randle, who's been a massive part of this Knicks team, this Knicks team's probably the most successful Knicks team we've seen in a decade. So I got him at the power forward, and then at the center, Domantas Sabonis, who's having a fantastic season, and some may argue that he's the main guy on that Kings team other than De'Aaron Fox, but I probably got Fox there. But I think Sabonis is having a career year, and he more than deserves to be All-NBA.
For Danko's All-NBA third team. At my point guard, I got De'Aaron Fox. I think he's just had a career season, helped the Kings get to the second seed in the West, break the playoff drought. He's been a big part of that. His clutch performances in the fourth quarter. He leads the NBA in fourth quarter points. My shooting guard, which they don't really like. Again, what I've noticed is they usually pick 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. But I've kind of done like a combo guard sort of thing here. So I've got Damian Lillard at my shooting guard.
Yeah.
So again, this one I honestly wanted to put him in the first or second team. I was almost debating having him in the first team, but what stopped me from doing that was the record of the Blazers, 31-40, which is no fault of his own. He's had a career year. He's been unbelievable all season. He's had one of the best resurgences considering last year. Obviously, had sat out most of the season, struggled with his injuries in the last couple of years, and to come out the way he did and to put on some historic performances and really carry that Blazers team when there was a lot of injuries around him, I think it's a testament to him. And again, I think it would be a sin to leave him out. This is where the controversy starts.
Andrew.
So at my small forward, I got LeBron James, and I know people are gonna jump on me for this, but the reason why is I just don't see how the NBA leaves him out, breaking the scoring record. Yeah. I was thinking of it from more of that perspective. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not mad at that.
I could have easily left him out, and my second option in this case would have been Jimmy Butler. Power forward, I've got Lauri Markkanen. Again, another resurgent career that turnaround for this guy. We spoke about it earlier in the video. A guy going from 14 points a game last year to 25 and 8 on 50, 40, 90 splits basically. And my center spot for the third team is Domantas Sabonis. Again, which we both agree on. Again, if it wasn't position based, I'd have him higher because I think the impact that he's had to that Kings team has been remarkable. Yeah. But again, because you got to pick 3 centers, I can't see anyone going ahead of Jokic and Embiid.
No, I think Danko, you're all right. Like, I don't think you're gonna get big and roasted for your picking LeBron in the all third team because, I mean, we'll talk about that in a bit. I don't know how the reactions will go after you hear my second person who I've left off my All NBA team, but to begin my All-NBA second team, at the point guard position, we got Ja Morant. Now, obviously with the whole controversy, like what's happening now, like all the incidents, I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest, like get into every little detail because there's a lot to cover there. But if you exclude all that and just look at how Ja's performed on the court this season and in the amount of games he's played, I think he's played enough to where he's All-NBA material. Two, we got Donovan Mitchell. I think he's arguably been the best shooting guard in the league this season. We got him at the 2, and then at the small forward, you had him in your third team. I got him in my second team. Look, LeBron James, he's All-NBA second team for me. Reason being is just, I just couldn't think of other guys to put ahead in the All-NBA second team. Like, I don't want to put DeMar DeRozan in All-NBA second. I didn't want to put Paul George in All-NBA third and move DeMar up. Didn't want to put Jimmy Butler in. I could have gone the route of chucking in a certain someone who's in my first team into there, and then potentially putting Markkanen in and then moving this guy up and that guy up. But I've left LeBron James in the power forward position. Another guy who hasn't really played all too much, but he's just too good to leave out of All-NBA. So we got Kevin Durant, and then at the center position, none other than Joel Embiid, who deserves to be All-NBA first team, but it's this close. I had to leave him in the second team because of the guy above him.
So for my second team, again, no point guard, shooting guard, just at my guards, I've got Donovan Mitchell, and I've got Steph Curry as my shooting guard, or as my second guard. So reason for these selections, again, yes, I know Curry has been out of action for some time this season, but he still has played enough games in terms of where the lowest amount of games played was, and he'll probably surpass that now because he's back healthy again. So that was my idea of why I'd have him in, and he's just been so efficient. 29, 6 and 6, nearly 36 and 6 on ridiculous shooting splits, and the fact that he's so efficient from three, despite the fact that he jacks up the amount of threes he does, and the impact he has on that Warriors team in winning. Obviously they're struggling on the road, but I just couldn't leave him out. Donovan Mitchell speaks for itself. 71-point game this year, has helped that Cavs team really take the next step to possibly win a finals, and to take the Cavs as far as he possibly can. And at my small forward, I've got Kevin Durant. At one of my forwards. Again, games played is going to play a big part here, but I think when he was on the court, he was arguably MVP when he was at the Brooklyn Nets, and if he didn't get injured, I think maybe that trade never takes place. Maybe Kyrie and KD are still there competing, and the Brooklyn Nets are close to the top of the Eastern Conference and not rebuilding with Mikal Bridges. At my power forward, I got Julius Randle. Again, he's been a very consistent figure in these All-NBA teams the last few years. 25 and 10 this year, really upped his scoring, and I think he's added a few strings to his bow in terms of his style of play, and been really that number one guy that the Knicks needed, and helped them obviously put him in the position where they are in this playoff hunt. At my center, I got Joel Embiid. Again, having Jokic as my MVP, I have to put Embiid at the All-NBA second team. Otherwise, it would have been a bit strange. I select Jokic as MVP and I don't put him in the first team. So yeah, that's pretty much my justification. But it was line ball. Whoever I would have picked for MVP there would have been in the All-NBA first team.
To begin my All-NBA first team, at the point guard position, I've put Luka Doncic. Needs no explanation. Well, I'll just move on to the next one. At the shooting guard, Jaylen Brown, who is extreme. Yeah, I don't know is that controversial. Probably a little bit.
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
When he's just so good. JT's out. They don't need JT. Jaylen Brown serves as that primary option. We all know that. Sometimes I'm watching Celtics games and I'm like, is Tatum better than Jaylen Brown? I don't know. He is, but sometimes I question whether he actually
No,
is.
you
If
can make a
Jaylen
legitimate
Brown is-
case.
Yeah, you can make the case, and I maybe I'm too much of a Jaylen Brown fan to leave him off, but I think he's All NBA first team material. Did you have him in your teams?
No.
Yeah, I don't, maybe that has to be like maybe
I
that's
was
a
almost-
wild take, but
I was almost considering putting him on my All NBA third team at small forward.
yeah, we'll just move on to the next pick, and that's Jason Tatum, who we all know, like, once upon a time, Jason Tatum was that MVP candidate. Now it's kind of gone to that three and Nikola, Giannis, and Embiid. But Tatum certainly, like, technically he's in the race. He probably won't win it, but he's having a phenomenal season. The power forward, we got none other than Giannis Antetokounmpo. How could I leave this man off the list? Had to put him in. I mean, he's my MVP, so I had to put him in that All-NBA first team. And then at the center position, we got Nikola Jokic, who, I mean, 25, 10 and 12, first seed in the West. I don't think this really needs any justification.
Besides Jaylen Brown, I think that one you could probably argue, because I didn't have him in any of my teams like I mentioned, so that one you can make the case, but I think, yeah, if you factor it in a little bit differently, it might have been a different sort of setup for yourself. But for my All NBA first team selections, same as you, I've got Luka Doncic as my point guard. It's pretty self-explanatory. Arguably should have been in the MVP conversation in it to a deeper extent, because if you really knuckle down and look at what the true meaning of an MVP is, he's well and truly it. And at my shooting guard, this one is a bit controversial, I think. Not as controversial as Jaylen Brown, but I have SGA at my two guard. I think what he's done for that Oklahoma City team brought him to the cusp of automatic playoff berth as the number one option, getting the number one defender every single night, averaging close to 32 points per game. At my small forward, I've got Jason Tatum. Again, this one is pretty self-explanatory. He's probably fourth in the MVP. And if it wasn't for the guys that we mentioned earlier, Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis having the seasons that they've had, him or Doncic will probably come home with their first MVP. At my power forward, I got Giannis. Again, this is another self-explanatory one. I think he's unanimous. And the way he's played this year has just been incredible. It led the Bucks to the number one seed in the East and the entire NBA. And I think he's just been a remarkable leader and an unstoppable force, and I think come playoff time he's going to show that to a full extent. My final pick, my center, which is my MVP for this year, and that's Nikola Jokic. Just the way he's played this year, averaging a triple-double, stat padding, as Kendrick Perkins will say, which is complete BS. Like I mentioned in my take earlier about who I think should have won MVP, went into the details of why he's so valuable to that franchise and to that team. And come playoff time, I think he's going to really try and prove the doubters wrong.